this point, I'd like to ask Craig to come up and talk to us about how to take care of things with that.
Yeah, I may need a sound person to come up here and help me. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? I just want to say that I'm incredibly intimidated right now because I've never spoken to such a great group of industry professionals, and I'm not just kissing your ass. So my name is Craig. I'm from Medicine Hat, Alberta. I live in Calgary now. I've actually had the blessing of performing in many of your venues. I performed with Jack Jackson, Shadows of Legends, Echoes of Stars tour. We did a tour in 2003. We went to many of the theaters that you people have worked at. I ran my own recording studio from 1996 until 2014. I lived in Dunmore, Alberta, and I moved to Three Hills, and I taught recording and sound reinforcement at Prairie Bible College for 4 years, from 2002 to 2006. I worked at Apple at Market Malls, a creator from, all right. Battery dead. You can all run up to lunch. Is this one working? Okay. If this battery dies the next minute, I'm gonna go home. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I worked at Apple as a creative trainer from 2008 to 2012, teaching people how to use their Mac. And in 2012, I became an IT professional for Rocky View School, so I'm familiar with the Bird Church Theater. I've been there many times. Good friends with Corby Dorner. And in 2018, I just went back to doing full-time music. So right now, what I do is I'm a full-time professional musician with the Dooley Piano Kings. So I don't know if you've seen us perform. We do Dooley piano shows all over Alberta and parts of other parts of Canada. So it's a real honor to be here with you this morning. I just want to set the expectation that you may know some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about already, and now that I know who you are, you probably know a lot of it, but it's my hope that each of you will get just one thing out of this morning. So we'll just go ahead and get started. When Sting went solo, when he left the Police in 1986, he took a Police song and redid it, and it's called "When the World is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around." How many of you have heard that song? One person, okay. I would invite you to check out the live recording of that. Kenny Kirkland does an amazing piano solo. It's one of my favorite things I've ever heard. But this is really typical of what's happening in our culture today. Because we're in theater arts, we're professional artists, creative professionals. There's all this talk about cutbacks and cutting backs, and we're talking a little bit this morning about how we can deal with some of those things. Some of the things we're going to talk about are preparation, expectation, innovation, meditation. I know that sounds really weird, but bear with me. Delegation, collaboration, recognition, and my favorite at the bottom, celebration. So we have 30 minutes to get through this, so we're going to rip through it fairly quickly. I'd like to get some feedback from you on some of these situations. Preparation, the first thing we want to recognize is by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So when I'm doing these keynote addresses, I did one, not a keynote, but I spoke last weekend at something and in Medicine Hat College, and I was assuming that they had an HDMI adapter for the projector. And Medicine Hat College, in their infinite wisdom, all the projectors only use VGA or component or composite, and I was like, that was a really bad assumption on my part. So I'm going to make sure I have proper adapters moving forward in case the venue doesn't. This is just a small example. How many of you you've been in a venue where you wanted something, or a client wanted something from you, you didn't have it? Yeah, I'm sure we've all been there. Anyway, being prepared, making sure you've got what you need ahead of time. So there's a picture here of my piano I was playing at the U of C one day, and I use a Yamaha piano, but it doesn't use an IEC cable. It uses one of those stupid wall boards. And so I'm always afraid that if it fails, the whole show is going to tank. So I always keep 2 power supplies with me just to make sure that doesn't happen. When do we need what we need? Do we have everything ready, or are we scrambling around the last second? Again, most of you already know this, but I'm just going through it. Are we able to set up when we think we can? I know as both a technical person and a creative person, there's been many instances where we go to the venue, we want to get our stuff set up and the stage isn't built yet. Have you had that experience? Yeah, I see some laughter. So you're able to set up at 2 o'clock, but the stage guys aren't there until 2:30, so we have to sit around and pick our nose for a while. So just be really ready. What's plan B in case of failure? And even further, what's plan C? A gig I was doing about a month ago, one of my colleagues didn't bring the sustain pedal. So when you're playing the piano, not having a sustain pedal is a bit of an issue. So thankfully, I had a Roland FS6 pedal I used for my looper, but I took a cable and plugged it into his piano and used that for sustain pedal. It was the last second thing. But having an extra bench, sometimes our benches explode when we're playing. So I like to have 2 or 3 benches just in case. And is there something we haven't thought about yet? How many of you raise your hands if you've had a client ask you for something and you had no idea that they need that? Yeah. Can you give me some examples?
Video projection.
What's that?
Video projection.
Yeah, okay, what else? A piano. I need a piano right now. What else? A few more.
Recording feed for video app show call.
Okay, that's great. Multi-track or stereo?
Both.
I need it now. Yeah, that's right.
Goes on, I need to be plugged in.
Yeah. You watch the movie The Wedding Singer when Adam Sandler goes, these would have been things that would have been good if you brought to my attention yesterday! So we don't like being thrown under the bus at the last second, so thank you for that. So AC requirements, I need 220, you didn't have it. Do you have a DMX lighting control? Do you have something at the last second that you had no idea that you were supposed to have? We've all been there. And as a performer, I promise to not do that to you. It's just moving forward. I like this song lyric, I beg your pardon, I didn't promise you a rose garden. As written by Joe South. So we started the workshop with me setting some expectations for you, with the expectation that you're probably going to know a lot of what I'm already going to talk about, but my hope is that you get at least one thing out of today. Some people say being happy is just not having any expectations whatsoever, but because we're technical creative professionals, there's a lot of expectations that we have to deal with regularly. So is everything accounted for in the contract? Do you folks look at contracts regularly? I'm assuming that you do. So usually what you need is in there, but then you get these last second things that throw you off kilter. This is something that I've ran into doing the piano shows. The client is on a low budget and they want to use your PA system to play Spotify after the show is over. So I have to sit around and wait for an extra 2 hours before I can strike the stage. That's something that I would like to deal with ahead of time. Like, if I'm going to come to your event, I'm going to do this, I'm going to perform, and then I'm going home at this time. Usually, they don't throw that in at the last second, it's in the contract. I wasn't aware of this until now. Like, I need a piano, I need a multi-track recording feed, like right now. Okay, well. Performer overtime versus room clear time. We, as the Dooley Piano Kings, we've been in like the Banff Springs and different venues where we're performing, and the room needs to be shut down at X time, but the clients are like, we want one more song, and there's this tension and this fight, like, and then the client turns the lights on, and all people are like, oh, it's all frustrating. So when you know that this is when we're done, it's like shut down time. Have you ever had an event where that's happened to you? Yeah, can you give me an example?
No.
I blocked it out, I don't want to talk about it. Anyways, things like that, last second curveballs are always fun. I really like this quote. I've been to inspirational quotes lately. I haven't failed, I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Thomas Edison when talking about the light bulb. So failure is only how you define it. Innovation is a fun one. How many times have you ever had to come up with a solution at the last second, just on the fly, and you did it? Hundreds? As creative technical professionals, you need to be problem solvers. Can somebody give me one example where they had a big problem and they had to fix it instantly and they did? Anybody?
Rob just did it with a microphone.
There you go. Thank you, Rob.
Plan B.
Plan B, yeah. So I have to confess to you folks, I hate this. This is the way we've always done it. I don't hate you, but I hate you when you think this. I hate people who think this way because it's just so damn lazy. We've always done it this way, and that's the way it's gonna stay. That's not necessarily true. So, one of the schools I was working with, one of the secretaries was tasked with building an org chart. It was a PDF of here's these people, here's those people, these people, and it was a big diagram that they had to do. And in their minds, they had been taught, I need to use Windows emulating on a Mac so that I can run this Microsoft software so I can build this Mickey Mouse PDF. And I'm thinking, can we kill a mosquito with a nuclear warhead? Is there an easier way? Oh, no, I gotta do it this way. And I didn't want to argue with her, I just said, there are literally 8,000 ways to create a PDF, and you've chosen the hardest way to do it. As long as the end result is matched, it doesn't really matter how you get there. Otherwise, you're working for unreasonable micromanagers. So, saving money, all these cutbacks that we're talking about, is there some equipment that solves more than one problem? And the answer to this is obviously yes. So, in some of our Dooley Piano shows, Pat McGannon, he's my booking agent and my partner, he has tasked me in doing multi-track audio recording of our performances, as well as multi-angle videos so that we can make professional videos for marketing. And one thing I was doing, I was bringing my Mac, I was bringing an interface, and I was bringing all this equipment, and it was a bit of a headache. But what I found out was Zoom has something called the Live Track L12. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it has 14 inputs. It has a USB output. It's class compliant, so you can record multi-track to your iPhone. Like you can fire up GarageBand, it's a bit of a headache, but you can fire up GarageBand on your phone and you can record 14 tracks multi-track, and it's crazy. So it has 5 cue mixes, it has XLR outputs, it has built-in compressors, built-in reverbs, and this mixer is only like $780. It does just about everything. And I thought back to my studio days. If I started my studio in 1996, if I had this piece of equipment, it would save me so. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on equipment back then, and today I just need this. So you can run live sound, and you can do live multi-track recordings for clients or bands or whoever. Thinking outside the box. Let's think of a different way to solve this problem. How can we solve this problem with other equipment and other methods? Paradigm shifting. How many of you do any of you drive an electric car? Okay. I drive an electric car. So the reason I drive an electric car is because it's a paradigm shift. I've gone from combustion to an electric vehicle, and I don't think I'm better than you, don't get me wrong. It's just a paradigm shift. It's different. I'm no longer slave to things that I can't control. We can talk about it later if you want to talk more about it, but the paradigm shift of going from a combustion car to an electric car is a big one, and it's difficult to kind of get through. Automation of tasks. How many of you have a method where you can automate things in your workflow? Anyone? Yeah. Well, can you give me an example?
Pretty much all booking tracks set up.
Great. So you have a template where you go boom and I'm done. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, when I ran my studio, I would set up a Pro Tools template. It would have inputs, blah, blah, blah. And you could even pre-label them like bass, drum, kick drum, keyboards. Everything's all presets. You're not wasting time doing that. Great. Any other examples of automation? Oh. Okay. As theater professionals, I'm assuming some of you or most of you know what QLab is. Are some of you working with QLab? Okay, so QLab is great. It's a micromanager control freak's dream because you can do whatever you want with whatever you want. With QLab, you can run sound, you can run lights, you can run DMX, you can have images, video, you can do whatever you want, and everything can be completely automated. So at Aussie Rules, the Jubilations Dinner Theater, I'm good friends with the tech there, and he has a digital console, but he's also running QLab with a DMX console to run all the sound and all the lights and all the cues. It's all completely automated. So he's cramped in this little closet, but he's running the whole show. There isn't a dedicated sound guy and light guy. One guy's doing everything. So in this culture of cutbacks, the more skills you have, the more likely you'll be able to survive those types of things. This is the weird one that I was going to talk about. Meditation is like a gym in which you develop the powerful mental muscles of calm and insight. I don't know how to pronounce this fellow's name, but you're probably rolling your eyes like, Really, Craig? That's what you're here to talk about, meditation? We don't have time for that. That's ridiculous. So let me counter that with, how many of you have an Apple Watch? Okay, a few of you, some of you. So there's an app on your watch called Breathe. And all it does is it encourages you to breathe. And you might think, I don't have time to breathe, Craig, I'm too busy working. But you can take just a minute and you can just focus on your breath and you can slow your mind down. If you're like me, your brain's going full tilt all day long. There's 9,000 tabs open, there's music playing from this tab, you don't know how to shut it off, and you're multitasking like a freak. And lately I've been going from multitasking to what I call monotasking, where you're focused on this speaking address right now. I'm not focused on what I'm gonna do later, I'm focused on you folks. So when you take time to breathe, you breathe deeply through your nose. And you do that for like a minute. And you'd be surprised at how much that makes you more clear and more productive. I don't know if some of you folks do that, great. If you don't, I would invite you to try it. So it's been very effective for me. There's an app on your iPhone called Calm that a lot of people use. And there's another one called 10% Happier. It's written by a guy named Dan Harris, who's a world-class news broadcaster. He had a nervous breakdown in the middle of a broadcast to millions of people and just shut down. And so he wrote this book called 10% Happier. There's podcasts and there's an app where he guides you through some meditation. So I'd invite you to check that out. Reduces stress in hectic times. Is it like we're all stressed? I'm imagining you people deal with a lot of chaos on a regular basis. Am I wrong? Okay. Practicing mindfulness on a regular basis can help with focus and productivity. People spend time physically working out, but how often do we mentally work out? And that's kind of what meditation is all about. It's working out up here, which is very important. Devices encourage healthy lifestyles. So the Apple Watch I have right now, when you put your finger on here, you can actually do your own kind of ECG. It's not a full-blown one, but if there's something going on with your heart, your watch can actually save your life, which is really cool. And the watch also has a fall detection. So because you're gonna have a health and safety meeting later on this afternoon, if somebody falls a certain way or someone's injured and they can't move, the watch can be very useful to get help in times of trouble. So yeah, the heart monitoring and fall detection is, those are really neat features that Apple's come up with to help us increase our health and safety. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Bill Gates. So there's two types of people in our world. There's people who like to hoard information, and then there's people who like to share information. The people who hoard information irritate the daylights out of me because they want to be the hero and they want you to rely on them and them only, and that's the way it goes. How many of you work with people like that? Okay. I think I pushed a few nerves there, I pushed a few buttons. So, you know who you are. So, delegation is the art, and I struggle with this too. I'm a royal control freak. I love doing everything myself because I know that if I do it wrong, I only have myself to blame. That's why I like playing singles in tennis. When you're playing doubles in tennis, you have someone to blame if you lose. I like playing singles tennis because if I lose, it's all on me. So delegating is finding someone who can do something for you. Like, do you have to get your own coffee? Do you have to get your own cables? Do you have to do your own track sheet for the studio? There's a bunch of tasks that you can ask yourself, what is my time worth? Are we doing tasks that could be completed by someone else? And if we're honest with ourselves, I think the answer is yes. And I know it is for me. So, what is the best use of our time? You can ask yourselves that question in your day-to-day workflow. Tag team efforts. This is the story in my studio. I actually recorded the telephone access banking voice for TD Bank back in the late 90s in Medicine Hat. Don't ask me how I got that gig. But I had to deliver the final product on cassettes, believe it or not, it was ridiculous. And before I moved to Three Hills, the woman talent called me and said, I have a 33-page script of mutual funds that we have to get done, and it's got to get done by like next Thursday. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So I hired one of my friends to come to my studio, and I had 2 Pro Tools rigs, one upstairs and one in the basement. And I said, look, you do pages 1 to 16, I'll do pages 17 to 32. We got to double time this, or we're just not going to get it done. And we got it done, so it was great. So tag team, find someone else who can help you. If you need to train them for like a half an hour, go ahead and do it. It's highly productive. Focusing on your strengths. A lot of us try to argue with our weaknesses, and I prefer to capitalize on my strengths. How many of you struggle with your weaknesses? All right, a few of you. And if you don't want to be honest with me, that's cool. I tend to focus on my strengths, and I'm learning to not beat myself up. And that's a lot of where that meditation comes from. You can get rid of that disempowered language like, oh, I sang Don't Stop Believing Wrong again, or I forgot the words to Brown Eyed Girl, am I ever a piece of crap? You know, you get these voices out of your head, and meditation will help you do that. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So collaborating. How many of you have had a collaboration with another organization to do a production? Okay, can you give me an example? Sorry, you in the back, sorry.
Just working with multiple other partners and venues at the same time to the same talent.
Sure. And do they have technical people come into your venue and help you, or do you run the whole thing?
It's more of sharing information so that the next venue is better up and set up for success.
Okay, great. Another example of collaborating? You had something with that?
Well, the Jubilees collaborate with other ministries within government, you know, assist them in delivering on their events.
Great. Excellent. So I'm a big Apple person, as you already know. How many of you have seen the movie Pirates of Silicon Valley? I'm bet not too many. It's kind of an obscure made-for-TV movie, and it talks about Apple and Microsoft as they both grew up together from nothing. And it talks about how they intersected, and it talks about how Bill Gates rescued Apple from bankruptcy in the late 1990s. But there's one scene where Bill Gates goes into the offices of IBM and says, we know that you're building a PC, and we know that you want to wipe Apple off the map. And it's one of my favorite scenes because Bill Gates sells him this DOS operating system that they don't even have yet. And they bought it from some guy in Seattle and sold it and made millions of dollars. But the fun thing with this is Apple and IBM used to hate each other. Like they were like mortal enemies, and they wanted each other destroyed. Steve Jobs thought he was going to beat up IBM, and IBM thought the same thing. They thought they were both going to completely blow each other out of the map. So who can we team up with to accomplish more? The reason I bring this up is in the past 2 years, Apple and IBM have collaborated in the enterprise space. And IBM is now using more Apple devices than ever before. And because of that, they're more productive, they're getting more done, they're happier in their work. So this is a great example of when you take 2 people who really don't like each other, or companies, and how, you know what if we were to just team up and do something together? What would that look like? Other organizations, internships, apprenticeships. How many of you have kids from school coming to help you in your venues to do things? Yeah, can you give me an example of that?
We use them for setups, teardowns.
Okay, great. And did the kids enjoy, the students enjoy those doings? They get experience? Anybody else doing things like that, inviting students to your venue to do work as work experience?
Is there yeah.
There's a program that we're launching right now, Craig. We've got a G-Tech program.
Great.
G-Tech like a girl program.
Awesome.
It's trying to create some pathways for female technicians.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
When is this launching?
Here in March.
Okay, I'd like to talk to you more about that. That's fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Well, I'm glad that this is relevant. I think, you know, we do this in the automotive industry, we do it in the electrician industry. I don't see it as much in the theater and performing arts industry. So there's a lot of kids out there that would like to have experience in what we're doing, and they don't have the opportunity. So this sounds like a great way to do that. Valuable work experience. I take my daughter to help me set up for our Dueling Piano Kings gigs, and I pay her, and she's very thankful and happy about it. And I want her to get more involved with performing. She plays the ukulele and sings, and she's just getting the courage to put up her own YouTube videos. And, you know, I would encourage each of you to create and not worry about what other people think, and that's easier said than done. When I create things, I'm learning to let go of it being perfect. Like, I'm recording this right now with my iPad, but I don't have like multi-camera angles and proper lighting. I'm just preserving it so I can study it later and see how can I improve the next time around. A group becomes a team when each member is sure enough of himself and his contribution to praise the skills of others. I might push some more buttons here. How many of you have taken time to encourage your colleagues and praise them for the work they're doing? Okay, some of you. Now, I hear more laughter. So, recognition is a big deal. And recognition in private is one thing, and recognition in public is another. So in 2012, when I was with Apple, we had a big meeting downtown Calgary, and both the Schnook and Market Mall stores were there. And there was like several hundred employees, and 3 managers that I worked very closely with, they called me up and they said that I was a family room champion. So I was being praised in front of all my colleagues, and I started crying because it meant so much to me to be acknowledged, not only by my managers, but in front of all the people that I worked with. And again, it's not that I think I'm better than everyone else. When you get that recognition, it really drives you to work even harder. So I want to invite you to take some time, not right now, but later, even if it's something small, take aside one of your colleagues and say, you know what, I really appreciate what you do and how you do it, and I just want to let you know that I really value who you are and what you do. I'd really appreciate it if you did that. How does it feel to receive praise? How many of you hate getting praise? You feel like, no, I'm not worthy of getting it. Yeah, that's tough. When is the last time you gave someone some specific positive feedback? You don't have to answer now. We already asked that question. Have you given it privately? That might be a little nerve-wracking for some of us. You might want to do it in public because it's easier because there's more people watching. What about in a group? As the example of Apple, when I was acknowledged in front of everyone, that felt really amazing. Create your own award show. Have some fun with this. Whatever venue or organization you're with, talk to the people who are in charge and put together a little award show. Get some prizes, make it fun. This is my favorite quote I found in doing this. Anyone who's just driven 90 yards against huge men trying to kill them has earned the right to do jazz hands. So Craig Ferguson, I'm a big fan of Craig's humor, he's very good. So celebration is our last topic. And celebrating is, do you take time to celebrate successes, or are you busy moving on to the next thing already? Yeah, a lot of us are. At Apple, we would take time to celebrate the successes, no matter how small. Hey, this old woman I taught, she finally knows how to make a photo book, an iPhoto. Well, that's great. It might seem Mickey Mouse to you, but it's a big deal to them. And so part of being an empowering trainer is to pretend like you're doing it for the first time with them, like we succeeded together. Is there a social group for planning work events? This could go back to that create your own award show type thing. Working together is good, but playing together is even better. How many of you do stuff with your colleagues outside of work? Let's see a few hands, okay. Do you find that helps your relationship when you're in the workplace? That's going on, guys? Okay. What sort of things do you do together? Everything? There's not much to do in Medicine Hat, is there? Sorry, I had to get that in there. But anyway, I'm good friends with these guys, but my dad actually donated a Hammond organ to the Esplanade, and my friend Dave Coe rebuilt it, and I want to talk to you folks about that later. Invite everyone to a party over lunch. It could be like a 10-minute thing, or just, hey, we're gonna have a little celebration for 15 minutes about this thing that we did. We landed this contract, or we solved this problem. We're gonna take some time just to celebrate and acknowledge that, hey, we did this together. It wasn't just you, and it wasn't just you, it was all of us working together. So I can field some questions. That's about it for my presentation, but any questions for me? Why do I look like Tom Hanks? Comes up a lot. I could say Wilson, but I'll refrain. Well, anyways, if there are no questions, I just want to publicly thank Robert for inviting me today. It's been an honor speaking with you folks, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you so much.